Hey! So, like I said last week, I am here with my February wrap-up. It's late, but whatever. so, and like I said in my spring TBR video, my reading's been a little chaotic lately. I think it's getting back on track now, actually, but it was definitely super weird in February. So I ended up reading 10 books. Really, it was 9 books and 1 novella kind of thing. But whatever. So first I read Lighting the Flames by Sarah Wendell, which was on my winter TBR. So yes, this is by Sarah Wendell, and it's a novella she wrote, and she's one of the co-founders of Smart Bitches Trashy Books, and she wrote this, I think I mentioned this in my winter TBR. She has this personal policy where if she complains about something like more than twice, she has to either shut up or do something about it. And so she complained about the lack of like Hanukkah or Jewish holiday stories. So she wrote one, which is Lighting the Flames, and I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really good, especially considering she doesn't really write fiction. Like, she's done stuff before, but really short things usually. She does write nonfiction, obviously. She has 2 nonfiction books and then the blog. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice romance. It was a really well-paced novella. Did a really good job of incorporating the Jewish elements. I know some things about like Judaism and Hanukkah, but not a ton. I barely have known any Jewish people in my life. Like, I can only think of like 2 off the top of my head, and I knew them in college. It's definitely not something that I was exposed to. But I didn't feel lost, but I also didn't feel like I was being like taught a lesson, which was really nice. It's also been a long time since I read this, so I don't remember that much, but I liked it. And if Sarah Wendell decided to write another fiction book, I would totally read it. Then I picked up My American Duchess by Eloisa James. I had not been keeping up with Eloisa James. As a general rule, I do like her books, but sometimes I find them just a little disappointing. And lately that had been happening, so I kind of just stopped keeping up with her. But I saw on Goodreads somebody I was following was reading this and they were loving it, and so I like went to Target and picked it up right away, and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I don't really remember why I didn't give it 5 stars. This is a historical romance. It's about an American that goes to England to get married, but she has like jilted basically 2 fiancés before, and she's kind of that brash American. And then there's a duke, and they have, like, if you read the synopsis, it makes it seem like they're gonna have one of those like contentious relationships, but they actually don't. Like, they do fight a little bit, but it's more about them knowing they can't be together than them like not wanting to be together, I guess. But I remember really liking both characters. Again, this is one that I kind of forgot a lot about, but I did really enjoy it. I read it super fast, and I do recommend it. It's also a standalone, so if you are looking for something to get into in historicals but series scare you, you may want to give this a try, or reread, I guess. The Shadowland, which is the first book in the Mediator series by Mike Cabot. I want to try and reread these in preparation to read Remembrance, which came out in February, and it's a new book in this series. I read this when I was in like high school or maybe college, but I think high school, and I gave this 4 stars. It's a super fast, easy read. It's young adult paranormal. It's about a girl named Suze, and she sees ghosts, so she acts as a mediator, and she moves to California to live with her mom's new husband and his family. And she also ends up having a ghost in her house who's super dreamy. Is it weird that now I feel weird, like I'm almost 30, like I'm a few years away from 30, but still I'm almost 30, and it's kind of weird to say dreamy about teenagers, but you know, I don't know. But anyways, I was a little nervous going into this because I was afraid that it would be like disappointing or something, but it did not let me down. It's definitely funny. I like Suze. She definitely has some growing to do in this book, but it's a 6-book long series, and then the new book, the 7th book. So I am very excited to continue reading this. I remember some basic plot points, but there's a ton I don't remember. And then I finally finished the Parasol Protectorate series by Gail Carriger, and I read Timeless, and I really enjoyed it, of course. I gave it 4 stars. I think Solace is actually my favorite book in the series, which is so weird. Normally first books, you know, you wouldn't think that they would be your favorites, but this was definitely a good conclusion. She left some things unanswered, but that makes sense because she's doing more in the world anyways. I just love Alexia and everyone else in here. I'm glad. I'm trying not to like spoil other books in the series. I'm glad this book took place when it took place, and I liked what happened with some of the characters, and I'm excited to see what happens in Prudence's stories. And then I read Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and I bought this. I am going to do a book haul eventually. I'm just like waiting till I have more books because I've been buying at a very slow pace. I gave this 5 stars. I just posted my review of this too, and I'm very conflicted on my review of this. I thought about doing a video review, but I don't think I can coherently explain my thoughts on it. I did have to take a break in the middle because it was too emotional for me. I think this book raises a lot of ethical questions and moral questions, and I'm not sure where I stand on those. And that's part of the reason I don't want to do a review, is because I don't want to speak about something that I don't 100% know what my opinion is on, because I don't want to stand, like, hold my ground on it or anything. I totally get why people love this. It is a beautiful story. It is beautifully written. Like, Jojo Moyes writes amazingly, and she put humor in here in a very good way. I definitely enjoyed it, but it was also very draining on me. I don't know if I should read the second book. Somebody I work with read this and After You, and she told me not to read After You. I may do it someday. I don't think I will ever reread this. I don't think I could. I don't know. I have very conflicted feelings about this, and I was very unsure of how to rate it. I gave it 5 stars because, if nothing else, it did have a profound impact on me, and the writing was beautiful, so I felt like for that I could justify a 5-star rating, but I'm very unsure. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. And then I needed a mental break, so I picked up On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves, and this is like a contemporary romance kind of. This I gave 4.5 stars, and it was very fun. It was super quick. It was super gripping. It was also emotional. Like, I definitely cried a few times. I was a little apprehensive going into this story because of the age difference between the characters, but she did a very good job with that, and she grew the characters very well. Some things were like a little easy for them that I didn't like, that kind of pulled me out of the story sometimes, but overall I really enjoyed it. I do recommend it, especially if you like romance or kind of romancy stories and you're looking for like a fun read. So I did really enjoy it. It was exactly what I needed in the moment. I'm glad I read it. And then I went on to some rereads. So at that point I was definitely in a full-fledged, like, no idea what to do with myself place, and I don't think I picked up, like, this was all very early in the month, and then I like stopped reading, and I didn't know what to do, but there was like a day when I really wanted to read, but I didn't know what to read. So I decided to pick up Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I'd been wanting to reread this for a long time, and I just kept putting it off. I actually really wanted to reread it in physical form, which I don't own the books, and I just can't justify buying them at this point. But I decided to reread it anyways, and I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I actually ended up changing my rating for Addicted to You to 5 stars. I loved it so much more going back into it and seeing it after having read the whole series. Well, the whole, like, Lily and Lo story. I've now finished the series, but that's for March. So it was very nice to get back in there, and then I read Ricochet and Addicted for Now as well, which those ratings stayed at 5 stars, and those were also enjoyable, and I just blew through them, and it was exactly what my brain needed. And then I reread Trade Me by Courtney Milan, part of it because this is another book I had been wanting to reread, And in addition to that, hopefully Hold Me, I think is what it's called, will be coming out soon-ish, which will be like the second book in this series. So I kind of wanted to get back in the world, and that one stayed at 5 stars as well because it is a great new adult read and I highly recommend it. And I am officially in love with Courtney Milan. Like, I already loved her from Trade Me, but in March I read like some of her other books and she is amazing. So you know, those are the books that I read in February. Them were rereads, but it was exactly what I needed and I was very excited to read them. Thank you so much for watching this. If you have any questions or comments about any of these books, please let me know, and I'll see you next week. Bye!